Hey, I'm Kenneth Wajda. I'm a professional photographer here in Colorado. Welcome to another one of my weekly Saturday chats, all things photography. So I was doing some research on Fred Herzog, the Vancouver photographer who shot street photography in the 50s, 60s, and when he was like in his 70s, he was discovered, really because his work was of a different time and it had become valuable. And it was well done and beautiful. But certainly time makes photos valuable. So if you're not famous now, just hang on to the photos and keep making more. But what I really was impressed by is he only shot Kodachrome for the most part. When everybody else was shooting black and white, he was shooting Kodachrome. And he was using those Kodachromes as a way to file his work and a way to show slides, because he would have slideshows that he would schedule in Vancouver. And I'm like, what a brilliant idea. You know, you can pick up a Kodak carousel projector for 10 bucks. You know, you can have your pick of which ones to buy and only buy the one with the working lamp, because the lamp will cost you another $10 or $20. So you have the availability to shoot slides. Kodak came out with E100 again, and there are other brands that make slide film. So we have the ability to make slides. We can still create slides that get into an archive that we keep to grow and to document our world in a form that doesn't need a print. And we can still have slideshows. I'm like, why can't we do slideshows now? I want to go document a project and just do it so that I can take a slide projector and put it in a place and invite people to come and show those photos, because if you've ever seen the difference between what a slide projector looks like and a digital projector, you know there's no comparison. A slide projector is so bright and vibrant, and a digital projector is good, but it's nowhere near the brilliance and the contrast of a slide, especially well-made photographs in slide. So I was thinking, it's like, you know, Fred Herzog had a very good idea on how he could avoid having to deal with darkroom and prints, because he would just keep his slides as his masters. And I'm like, that is a very still possible idea. That is a very useful idea for how to do a project now. Say you wanted to do a project on local gymnasts. Your kid's a gymnast and they do a lot of outdoor climbing. They climb up trees that you wouldn't think you could get into. And they have this whole activity where they do some kind of gymnastics outside. And you're going to go document it. And you decide you're going to shoot it on slide film. Can you imagine how nice that project would look put into a slide projector and presented at an event for that group? That's what I'm thinking about. I like the idea. I haven't shot slides in a long time, and I do have some slide film in my refrigerator. But my question is, what can I bring that film to as a specific project, and then shoot a camera that only is dedicated to slide film so that I can put together a slideshow? I used to have a Sharp brand 2-unit dissolve unit with a cassette tape inside. And the cassette tape you could program so that it would automatically change the slideshow in the order and at the timing that you wanted. And I love that. Then you could have 2 slide projectors and they would dissolve between the 2, so you wouldn't have the blackout screen. But you don't really need that. 1 projector alone would be fine. 2 is very pro looking. And then on that cassette you could put some music. It was kind of a nice little setup. And I swear I must have paid $200 or $300 for that unit back in the 80s and 90s. And now I see them on eBay for $30. And they're probably more expensive to ship, because they're about this big and they weigh probably 20 pounds. So if you actually were looking for one, look up Sharp Dissolve cassette unit. You'll find it. And they're wonderful. And they work right with 2 Kodak carousel projectors, and they connect and work the dissolve. But even with a single projector, like I said, you can find them at thrift stores. You can find them for very little. Nobody wants them. And that doesn't mean they're not completely still capable and of the availability of presenting a slide in a show. I do a monthly beers and cameras in Boulder, and last month one of the photographers brought a slide projector, a Kodak carousel, and put those slides up on the screen, and it was a way different experience than the digital projector. So there's something to shooting slides in 2021 and 2022 going forward. There is something to what Fred did and how we can still do that. And even if you just documented your neighbor or your grandpa and just made up a show of 20 photographs, and those 20 photographs brought to your family or brought to that neighbor and just showed them, there's something special about dimming the lights, firing up the projector, having the screen. There's something about the presentation. The movie industry right now is struggling because people are going, well, with COVID I got streaming and I don't need a movie theater anymore. And they faced the same thing in the 50s when television came out, and they said, what are we going to do? How are we going to get people to come to the movies now that they have TV? But no TV can replicate the experience with the sound and the size and the picture of a movie theater, plus the social experience of going out to the movies together and watching something where you can't pause it, where the dog can't interrupt, where you can't get up and use the restroom. It has to be one experience from front to back, and you have no control over it. Sometimes giving up that control is a good thing. I'm a big fan of movie theaters and movies, but the idea of you presenting a slideshow in a neighbor's house or in your family's house, can you imagine going to like a Christmas dinner, and after dinner everybody's called into the living room for this slide presentation that you made on Kodak E100 of your grandpa and all the things that he loves to do. And they're wonderful portraits, they're close-ups, there's some of him in his workshop, maybe he's a woodworker, and all that because you created a spectacle. It's not like, people used to say, oh, I don't want to see people's boring, vacation photos. But we don't make boring vacation photos. When I used to travel back in the 90s, I would take slide film in a little Olympus XA, and I would shoot everywhere I went. I'd put together a slideshow when I came back, and my friends were waiting for the show because they knew my show wouldn't be a boring, repetitious slideshow. It would be a well-edited, well-shot tour of where we went. So I think there's something to slides in 2022 and going forward. I think that there's something nowadays that we can do that slides are still relevant. And add a slide projector, add a place to have a show, there's no telling what we can do. All right, that's today's photography talk. If you're enjoying these, hit the subscribe button. If you can support, hit the Patreon, and I'll be back next time. We'll talk more photography. As always, here's the good light.